Hey YouTube, I do not normally make YouTube videos, but I just got done making a DIY propane ammo can fire pit and wanted to share some learnings because if you're like me, you probably found this video because you're doing some research, thinking about making your own. We're looking at lava boxes and the Ignic fire can and kind of seeing some plans out there for a quick and dirty kind of Harbor Freight Amazon piece that you put together. Which is what I did. So I'll kind of walk you through some of the learnings and hope to answer some of the questions that I had that I did not see out there on the internet, and maybe steer you in the right direction if this is a project you're trying to take on. So first and foremost, I'm not going to walk you through like the actual build of it. There are at least like a dozen videos of people that take Harbor Freight ammo cans, pieces and parts from Amazon, and drill a couple holes and put them together. I'll show you just real quick what the finished product looks like. So I got this, basically a grill burner that I've drilled a couple holes in here and a hole in the bottom and was able to screw it in, which all in all is pretty easy to do. Like the actual assembly of the can, like with moderate skill and the kind of tools and stuff you should have around your garage, like 20-30 minutes. But where I quickly realized it was going to need a little bit more effort and work is when I actually burnt it for the first time. So I lit it up, threw some lava rocks in it, and like all the paint starts like basically burning and coming off in fumes. And I personally, like, I've got two young kids that I expect to be around this thing quite a bit to be making s'mores and making hot dogs and stuff on it. So I really didn't want to have them exposed to those kind of chemicals and stuff like that. So I kind of set off on a journey to fully remove all the paint from it and then kind of hit it with some high heat spray paint, the type of stuff that you'd put on a grill. So that's where a lot of the labor and effort came in, and it actually ended up costing more money and kind of a lot more time than I was expecting. So I'll kind of walk you through what that process looked like. First off, I thought I could just burn the thing on full blast for a couple hours and let that get a lot of the paint would burn off. And what you get when that happens is it bubbles, but doesn't necessarily come off, right? So I was able to kind of scrape it a little bit, but it left a lot and still wasn't clean enough to a point that I felt comfortable having my family around it. So I decided to kind of get it down to complete bare metal, which took a couple steps. One, I had some of this sitting around from a project I did in my house where I took a bunch of old paint off of a wooden beam in the basement. This stuff's super expensive. I had it laying around, so it didn't cost me anything. It was just leftover, but I think it's like 50 or 60 bucks for a tub of it. You don't need this much, but basically you coat the whole thing, let it sit for 24 hours, and then go at it with paint scrapers or a screwdriver to get in kind of the nooks and crannies. But that didn't do a great job. It still left quite a bit of paint. It was almost impossible to get the paint off the inside of the actual ammo can itself. So next I went at this thing with my orbital sander and some metal specific sandpaper, a couple hours of that, and got more of the paint off, but again, not all of it, not to the point that I felt comfortable having it be a permanent fixture of our camping kit. So then I finally purchased this thing on Amazon, which it is I think it's made for a Dremel tool, but it's it's like a wire steel knot paint remover. I don't know the exact name of it, metal brush. But I stuck this thing in my drill and was able to kind of go across the entirety of the ammo can. And that did a good job. It got probably like 95% of all the paint off and got it down to bare metal that I was feeling good about. So once I got all that done, probably like 3 hours of actual paint removal work. After that, the actual painting itself was pretty easy. I did a couple coats of, like I said, this. Grab some. This Rust-Oleum high heat. So I had this in silver and black. I did the black coat first, and then I cut out a outline of a fish and taped it on there, and then hit it with the silver. Just to have kind of a cool custom look, something that looks kind of different. That my fishing buddies will be jealous of. So all in all, like, it was more effort than I thought. I think I ended up spending, by the time I acquired some new tools and a couple cans of spray paint and stuff like that, probably 120 bucks. And probably 4 or 5 hours of effort by the time it was said and done. So like I'm not sure that it is necessarily as frugal to do the DIY route versus getting a purpose-built, made in the USA lava can. I'm super happy that I did this. I think it turned out really cool. But again, like I've got 2 young kids. Time is money for me. I spent more time than I wanted to on this, spent more money than I wanted to on it. So maybe in hindsight, the right choice was to go with the lava box, because I think, I've seen the thing in person. It's pretty cool. It rages fire. And yeah, like I think it's a company to support veterans and do a lot of cool stuff. So I don't think the overland tax is necessarily that outrageous when it kind of comes down to trying to do this thing yourself. If you've got tools, like your experience working with metal, like you think that stripping paint off of a chunk of old metal is a no-brainer, then I think you're probably better off than I am. You can probably do it in a matter of an hour or so. That's just my personal experience that I wanted to share. So next I'll talk about a couple things. I guess I want to answer some questions that I didn't have answered. And number one is, can it run on one of these, and how long will it? I want you guys, I spend a lot of time in my raft and fishing, and my rig's pretty small, so space is like a major premium. I have the 5-gallon Ignik, the gas growler. Even that thing's bigger than I'd like to take on most of my trips. So I'm trying to figure out if I can get away with running this thing for a couple hours on 1 or 2 of these. So what I'm gonna do is go outside here in a minute and do a couple test burns. One, burning this at what I would consider like the lowest, let's call it like the reasonable amount of flame that you would do if you were camping and hanging out drinking beers, not necessarily trying to like get warm, but having like a nice kind of glowy campfire to sit around. And then I'll do another can and see how long it takes burning at kind of a more full blast, like replicating a real wood fire. You'd actually generate some warmth and stuff from. So I'll let you know how that goes. So a couple things that you need to do this. I got this on Amazon. This is a adapter that goes from kind of your standard propane fitting, screws into here, and this allows you to, I'm not going to do it, but hook in with one of these kind of 1-pounder green propane tanks. So with that, I'll hook it up, find out how long it runs on one of those, and do a couple, and I'll share those stats here at the end of the video. So thanks for tuning in. If you have questions, like I said, I'm not a YouTuber specifically, but if you want to see how I built this or have specific questions, leave a comment. I'll probably read it and try to respond. But thanks. Good luck, guys. All right, so it's been going for 40 minutes, and the problem I ran into is that this is just totally frozen over. And no matter how much I adjust it, I can't get the flame to go any higher. If I shake it up a little bit, it'll go. So I don't know, it's about 45 degrees out where I am right now. Maybe that's the issue. I don't know, more testing to be done. Okay, so I let it sit for about 20 minutes and thaw out and turn it back on. So I'll restart the clock. So we're at 45 minutes. See how much further we get. All right, so I'm gonna end the test here. We've been going for exactly an hour, and there's still a lot of propane in there. But it's just so frozen that it's not generating much heat, or it's not putting out much. So it kind of like settles, you can shake it and really get it going. I think it's because of the temperature. Like I said, I think it's about 40, actually checked this, 43 degrees where I am right now. We are at about sea level. So, I don't know, I think the test is successful. You can run the thing off of the 1-pounder for about an hour at a lowish heat. But I'm not gonna do the second test of doing full blast, because I just think that it's gonna freeze up too quick. Because I think as gas is leaving that faster, it'll get colder quicker and then kind of cut it off. So anyway, it's pretty successful. So I run this off my big propane tank and it has no issues. I think I need to test it with my little Ignik one to see how it goes, but I don't know, pretty cool. I mean, you can run it off this thing. I wouldn't expect like a long night of partying in the winter, in the cold. All right. All right, so quick recap of the experiment that I did. So like I promised, I took my 1-pound totally full green propane tank, hooked it up to the ammo can fire pit, and ran it at kind of a low to medium power to see how long you could get out of one of these. And what happened is it ran for about 20 minutes, and then the flame kind of started coming down. And as I went and was fiddling with it, you couldn't really open up the regulator anymore, and it wouldn't create any more, like a bigger flame. I was wondering, you could shake it and that would get it going full blast. But I think what happens, I mean, just look at this thing, it's frozen solid. And if I went up the thing, you touch the connection point, it was frozen and coated with ice. So that clearly had something to do with it. I took chemistry in college and got a D, so I'm not even gonna pretend that I know exactly what's going on, but I think that the idea of like the pressure and the temperature and their inverse relationship, something happened that prevented a lot of flame coming out of that. But basically what happened is I ran it, for 45 minutes. It wasn't gonna die or anything. It probably would have kept going for a while. I turned it off so that the tank could cool down a little bit, at least with a connection point. The ice went away from it. Then I cranked it back up and it went full blast for a while, but then within 10 minutes it kind of died back down. So at the hour point, I decided to just call it. I think there's still a lot of gas in there. I don't know if it's a quarter full or I don't know, a third's left in it, but I don't know, it's not super scientific. So I think the net of it is, like, if you want to run this, well, here's the thing, environmental conditions, it's 40 degrees where I am right now. So if it's 40 degrees, you can run the thing, but don't expect getting huge flames out of it. I think that, actually I know this for a fact, because I did this yesterday with my full-size 20-pound propane tank. I had no issue. I ran the thing full blast, and it didn't cut out or anything. I think it's literally just the small volume of this and the impact of losing that much pressure over time. Again, if you're a chemist, you might know better. Feel free to comment and tell us exactly what's going on. It's probably like Boyle's law or Charles's law. I remember PV equals nRT. That was an equation I remember learning. But yeah, it was good. It ran for an hour. I think that I have no problem, if I'm tailgating for, a half hour before going into a football game or something, and running off one of these. If you're doing like a shore lunch and want to just warm up the fingers, that would probably work. But I think if I am going to be using it overnight camping, to sit around with guys, at least if it's cold out like it is here, I'll probably take the bigger, like my 5-pound propane tank, which I'll do some more testing on. I'll wrap the video, I'll publish it here, but if I learn anything else, I'll comment or make a new one. And same goes, if you have any questions, make a comment. Thanks for watching. Good luck. Cheers.